Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to do chapter 7 of class 6, that is Ashoka, the empire who gave up war. Now, have you heard about Ashoka? One of the greatest rulers of India. Why he is called greatest? Well, we will explore that in this unit. Here, something very interesting, that is Ashoka left behind inscriptions on pillars all over his empire. These inscriptions were not just messages, they were instructions for the kingdom on how to behave, how to follow the Dhamma, and which we will explain in detail as we go. Let's start with some background. The empire Ashoka ruled was founded by his grandfather, that is Chandragupta Maurya, and Chandragupta had the support of very wise man. It's called as Chanakya, and many of Chanakya's ideas were written down in famous book called Arthashastra. The Mauryan Empire had important capitals like Pataliputra, Takshila and Ujjain, and Ashoka himself was once the governor of Ujjain, and these cities were buzzing with merchants, officials and shoppers. Now let's look at the map. See this area, that's roughly the Mauryan Empire in modern India. One question often comes in exam, how is an empire different from the kingdom? In here, an empire is very large, that covering many regions, basically the whole India in this case. A kingdom is smaller, usually one state or the region. Okay. Now let's see how Ashoka ruled the empire. The area around Pataliputra, the capital, was under direct control of emperor. The other areas were controlled by governors appointed by the king. This distribution of power helped manage such a vast empire, and these regions had their own provincial capitals like Ujjain, Takshila, and the Mauryan also focused on controlling roads and rivers because transport was essential for trade and communication. For example, Arthashastra mentions the northwest was important for blankets and South India for gold and precious stones, and these resources were collected as tribute. Okay, but now what is tribute? Unlike taxes, which were collected regularly, tribute was collected occasionally, often voluntarily, and could be in the form of goods rather than money. Even in forested regions, the people were mostly independent, but they were expected to provide elephants, timber, honey, and other products to the Mauryan officials. Now, let's talk about Ashoka, a truly unique ruler. He was the first ruler in the Indian history who tried to communicate directly with his people through inscriptions on rocks and pillars. And these inscriptions were written in Prakrit and carved in Brahmi script. And Ashoka's most famous conquest was Kalinga, which is the ancient name of coastal Odisha. And the war in Kalinga was terribly violent, and when Ashoka saw the bloodshed and suffering, he was so horrified, and that he decided never to fight another war. Yes, you heard that right. Ashoka is the only king in the world known to have given up conquest after winning a war, and that is why historians call him the greatest ruler. Now, let's understand Ashoka's Dhamma. His Dhamma did not involve worship of a god or performing sacrifices. Ashoka thought of himself like a father to his subjects, teaching them how to live rightly. At that time, people followed different religions, and sometimes they caused the conflicts. Because the animals were sacrificed, slaves and servants were mistreated, and quarrels happened in the families and between neighbors. So Ashoka felt it was duty to guide the people and reduce the suffering. So he appointed a special officials called Dhamma Mahamatta, who went from place to place teaching people about the Dhamma. He also inscribed his messages on rocks and pillars, instructing his officials to read and follow them. Interestingly, Ashoka even sent messages abroad to spread Dhamma in other countries like Syria, Egypt, Greece and Sri Lanka. This shows how far his ideas traveled, and almost like a first international message of peace and ethics. Okay. Now, the edicts of Ashoka. There were 33 major rocks and pillar edicts, and covering topics like moral conduct and welfare of people, justice and protection of animals. Okay, and he built hospital, roads, wells and rest houses for humans and animals. And Ashoka played a key role in spreading Buddhism across Asia and sending missionaries to Sri Lanka, Central Asia and Southeast Asia. And also, Dhamma is a moral governance. Okay, for UPSC, remember the Dhamma was ethical and social guidance, so not religious conversion. Okay, so in conclusion, Ashoka was a warrior turned peacemaker, a ruler who cared for his people, and king whose ideas of moral governance still inspire the world today. Now that's it for Unit 7, and I will upload Unit 8 in the coming days. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and take care.